The afternoon sun filters softly through the lace curtains, casting delicate patterns across the living room floor. The house smells faintly of warm baked bread and vanilla, a comforting aroma that immediately makes the narrator feel both at ease and slightly on edge. He steps inside, nervously shifting the weight of his bag from one shoulder to the other, feeling the subtle warmth of the air and the faint hum of the refrigerator in the background. As he closes the front door behind him, it shuts slowly, deliberately, as if echoing the unspoken tension in the room. His eyes catch her before he even notices the furniture. She's standing near the kitchen doorway, leaning lightly against the frame. She's effortlessly graceful, in that quiet way that only comes with age and confidence. Her hair is pinned back loosely, a few strands brushing her cheek, and her eyes hold a mixture of curiosity and subtle amusement. There's a faint warmth radiating from her, a presence that's quietly magnetic. "Hey, you made it," she says, her voice calm and measured, yet soft enough to stir something unidentifiable in him. Her smile is polite, but there's a lingering quality to it, as if she's assessing more than just his arrival, perhaps noticing how he carries himself or how nervous he is. The narrator feels a strange pull, a mixture of nervousness and intrigue. As she gestures toward the living room, their hands brush lightly for an instant. It's accidental, but the sensation lingers, sending a subtle shiver through him. He notices the warmth of her skin and the firmness of her hand, realizing that even such a brief, innocent touch can carry more weight than expected. It's a moment charged with unspoken awareness, yet nothing is forced. She doesn't withdraw her hand abruptly. Instead, she allows the contact, almost knowingly, before moving ahead. He takes a tentative step forward, glancing around the room. The furniture is cozy, familiar, but the attention inevitably drifts back to her. The sunlight glints off her hair in a way that makes him pause, momentarily mesmerized. There's something in the way she moves, deliberate yet relaxed, that contrasts sharply with his own anxious energy. Every small gesture, from the tilt of her head to the way she adjusts the strap of her apron, feels loaded with quiet elegance and unspoken invitation. As they reach the sofa, she sits gracefully, crossing her legs, and the narrator can't help but notice the subtle confidence in her posture. He sits nearby, careful to maintain polite distance, yet his presence seems to shift the air in the room. There's a fragile balance between casual conversation and the underlying tension neither dares to name. By the end of this short first interaction, the narrator is fully aware of the delicate dance beginning between them. A door that closes slowly, a brush of hands, a look that lingers just a fraction too long. These small, sensory moments set the stage for the emotional journey ahead. For him, it's an intoxicating mixture of curiosity, admiration, and the faintest stirrings of desire, all carefully restrained by social boundaries and the quiet respect he feels for her. The chapter closes on a note of warmth and intrigue, an invitation to linger, to observe, and to slowly navigate the quiet, unspoken connection that has just begun. The kitchen smells faintly of brewed tea and the lingering sweetness of freshly baked cookies cooling on the counter. Sunlight streams in through the open window, catching motes of dust that dance lazily in the warm afternoon air. The narrator follows her into the kitchen, still conscious of the subtle tension lingering from their first meeting. The atmosphere is casual, yet every small movement, every gesture between them carries a quiet weight. She begins preparing a snack, slicing fruit with deliberate care. The soft sound of the knife against the cutting board punctuates the gentle hum of the refrigerator. He watches, both mesmerized and self-conscious, aware of the grace in her movements. When she turns slightly to hand him a glass of juice, their hands meet briefly again. This time, neither flinches. The warmth of her skin against his is fleeting, but it leaves a lingering spark, a reminder that these ordinary moments are charged with something unspoken. As they move around each other in the kitchen, their conversation flows with surprising ease. They talk about mundane things at first, the weather, her latest recipe experiments, his college or work schedule, but gradually the dialogue deepens. She laughs softly at a joke he makes, the sound like a melody that seems to fill the room, and he notices how her eyes crinkle at the corners in a way that makes her warmth feel tangible. He finds himself sharing small personal stories, memories from his childhood, dreams he's hesitant to voice aloud, and she listens with attentive curiosity, never interrupting, always engaged. There's an almost imperceptible dance in the way they navigate the shared space. When she moves to open a cupboard, their elbows brush lightly. When he reaches for a glass, their fingers graze. Each contact is brief, yet charged, not provocative, but intimate in a quiet, human way. He notices the subtle rise and fall of her chest as she breathes, the faint scent of her perfume mingling with the sweetness of the kitchen. Every small detail, the tilt of her head, the soft sigh as she leans over the counter, the way she tucks a stray strand of hair behind her ear, draws his attention. For the first time, the narrator feels a comfortable closeness with her, a sense of trust building alongside the subtle tension. He realizes that he enjoys being near her not just for her beauty or grace, but for the warmth and patience she radiates. Her presence encourages him to relax, to speak more openly, to share parts of himself he usually keeps hidden. The afternoon stretches on in a gentle rhythm. The clink of cups, the scrape of chairs, the quiet murmur of conversation, and the occasional accidental touch that sends small ripples of awareness through him. By the end of the visit, the narrator is keenly aware of the growing emotional connection, a mixture of admiration, curiosity, and the faint stirrings of something deeper. It's the kind of intimacy that doesn't need words, where a glance, a brush of hands, or a shared smile carries more meaning than any declaration could. The scene closes with a lingering sense of warmth and anticipation. He leaves the kitchen carrying more than just a snack. He carries the subtle memory of her touch, the sound of her laugh, and the undeniable sense that this slow, careful connection is just beginning to unfold. The golden light of late afternoon spills into the living room, painting the furniture in warm hues and casting long, soft shadows across the floor. The narrator sits quietly, nursing a cup of tea, yet his attention is drawn repeatedly to her, the friend's mom, who moves around the room with the same effortless grace that captivated him earlier. Every small gesture, from the way she tilts her head when speaking to the faint brush of her hand against the sofa cushion, seems amplified in his mind, stirring a mix of admiration and unease. It's in these quiet moments that he becomes painfully aware of the complexity of his feelings. There's an attraction, yes, but also a hesitancy rooted in social boundaries and his own respect for her. He watches as she laughs lightly at something his friend said moments ago, and for the briefest instant, he feels a pang of jealousy. Not overt or possessive, but a subtle ache at the thought of anyone else enjoying what he treasures most, her attention. His mind chastises him, yet he cannot suppress the fascination that keeps drawing his gaze back to her. Every glance shared between them feels weighted. When their eyes meet, even briefly, there's a flicker of unspoken acknowledgement, a silent recognition that something unusual is unfolding. He notices how she sometimes lingers just slightly longer than necessary, her eyes holding his for a beat too long, her smile carrying a quiet warmth that feels both inviting and forbidden. The house feels charged, every ordinary sound. The ticking clock, the faint hum of traffic outside, the soft rustle of curtains, magnifying the tension that simmers beneath the surface. Internally, the narrator wrestles with conflicting thoughts. He admires her maturity, her quiet confidence, the way she seems to carry herself with ease, and yet he feels the pangs of youthful uncertainty. Is it merely admiration, or something deeper? And if it is deeper, what are the consequences of acknowledging it? The questions swirl in his mind, creating an intricate dance of desire and restraint. There's also the subtle influence of social perception. His friend, neighbors, even distant acquaintances regard her with admiration or curiosity, and the narrator cannot help but feel a quiet unease at how his feelings might be judged. The tension is not just emotional but intellectual, as he tries to reconcile societal expectations with the undeniable pull he feels toward her. Amid all this, there are moments of innocent intimacy, a hand brushing against his as she hands him a book, the gentle warmth of her presence as she sits nearby, the soft inflection in her voice as she asks how he's feeling. These small touches, fleeting as they are, feel magnified under the weight of his growing awareness, making every interaction a careful balancing act between desire and propriety. By the end of this part, the narrator is acutely aware of the complex web of emotions weaving between them: admiration, curiosity, attraction, hesitation, and respect. The emotional tension has deepened, yet nothing is forced. It is subtle, compelling, and entirely human, the kind of slow-burning connection that promises both vulnerability and intimacy, waiting for the right moment to unfold further. Twilight settles over the garden, casting a soft, muted glow across the flowering shrubs and the small stone pathway. The air is cool and carries the faint scent of jasmine, mingling with the earthy aroma of freshly watered soil. The narrator and his friend's mom step outside, drawn by the quiet solace of the evening, away from the hum of the house and the lingering presence of social expectation. It's a moment that feels suspended in time, the kind of peaceful interlude that allows emotions to breathe. As they walk slowly along the pathway, their conversation naturally drifts from light topics to more personal reflections. She shares small anecdotes from her youth, the challenges she's faced, the little victories and regrets that have shaped her. Her voice is soft but steady, carrying the weight of experience without ever becoming heavy. He listens intently, feeling a mixture of admiration and a surprising sense of kinship, as if her words are meant just for him. The narrator begins to open up in ways he hasn't before, revealing vulnerabilities he usually keeps guarded. He speaks of loneliness, fleeting doubts, and the pressures of adulthood, his words spilling more freely than he expected. She listens without interruption, her eyes steady and empathetic, and at moments, she reaches out, lightly placing her hand on his forearm. The touch is fleeting yet grounding, like a gentle anchor in a sea of uncertain emotions. He feels the warmth of her skin and the quiet steadiness behind the gesture, a reassurance that he is seen, understood, and in some subtle way valued. Their proximity feels natural. Sitting together on the low stone bench, he notices the soft rustle of her clothing as she shifts slightly, the delicate exhale of her breath, and the occasional brush of knees against the bench. The air is charged with unspoken awareness. It's a tension not of desire alone, but of trust, intimacy, and the tentative exploration of emotional closeness. Every shared smile, every pause in conversation, carries more meaning than words could express. There's a certain rhythm to their interaction, a give and take of personal space and shared vulnerability. He notices her gestures of care, subtle adjustments of posture, the gentle tilt of her head when she listens, and the way her eyes linger on his face in moments of quiet reflection. These small, sensory-rich details create a tapestry of connection, layering emotional depth over the slow-burning tension that has been building since his arrival. By the end of their time in the garden, the narrator feels a shift in their relationship. It is no longer merely casual or polite. There is a quiet recognition of mutual understanding and shared emotional resonance. He senses that she, too, has allowed herself a measure of openness, a subtle lowering of walls that speaks of trust and delicate affection. The tension between them remains, but it is now interwoven with warmth, reassurance, and a growing sense of intimacy that is profoundly human and entirely YouTube-safe. This scene closes with the soft fading of twilight, leaving the two of them in a cocoon of emotional connection. The garden feels almost sacred, a private space where vulnerability is met with kindness and subtle touches, fleeting yet meaningful, promise that their slow, careful journey toward deeper connection is only just beginning. The living room is quiet, the kind of stillness that seems to amplify every small sound. The gentle tick of the clock, the soft rustle of curtains in the evening breeze, and the faint hum of the refrigerator in the background. Outside, night has fully fallen, and the faint glow of streetlights seeps through the curtains, painting the room in soft pools of muted gold. The narrator sits on the edge of the sofa, his body tense yet subtly drawn toward her, aware of every small movement she makes. She sits across from him, a book resting lightly in her lap, though her attention drifts toward him more often than not. There's a quiet tension in the room, unspoken but palpable. He notices how the shadows play across her face, highlighting the gentle curve of her jaw and the softness of her expression. His mind struggles with a swirl of emotions, admiration, curiosity, hesitation, and a subtle, burgeoning desire that he neither fully understands nor wants to acknowledge. The intimacy between them has deepened in small, seemingly inconsequential ways. The accidental brush of fingers, the lingering gaze, the way her voice softens when she speaks directly to him. These gestures are innocent, yet charged with unspoken meaning. Each moment makes him acutely aware of the fine line they walk between emotional connection and the social boundaries he knows they cannot cross. He feels conflicted. The magnetic pull toward her is undeniable, yet the awareness of the age difference and his own inexperience weighs heavily. He catches himself stealing glances at her when she's not looking, observing how she gestures as she talks, the subtle movements of her hands, and the warmth that radiates from her in the quiet of the night. Each observation amplifies the internal struggle, desire tempered by respect, curiosity shaded by hesitation. She, too, seems conscious of the tension. Her movements are deliberate, measured, yet there are fleeting moments when she allows herself to linger closer. A hand that rests a moment too long near his, a soft glance that holds just a fraction more meaning than ordinary conversation would dictate. The pauses between words stretch, filled with the weight of unspoken emotion, creating a rhythm where every silence feels loaded with possibility and restraint. As the evening deepens, the narrator becomes increasingly aware of his own heartbeat, the way it quickens when she leans toward him, even slightly. There's a nervous excitement in the brush of hands when reaching for a blanket together, a subtle charge in the accidental closeness. It is a moment that encapsulates their slow-burn connection, tension, longing, and profound respect all intertwined in one delicate, YouTube-safe gesture. By the end of this scene, the narrator is acutely aware of the complexity of their bond. Desire and hesitation coexist, forming a fragile tension that neither wants to break prematurely. There is no rush to resolve these feelings. The slow, deliberate pacing of their interactions makes each small touch, glance, or shared breath significant. The story lingers in this space, a careful balance of emotional intensity and restraint, setting the stage for the climactic acknowledgement of their attraction in the next part. The kitchen is bathed in the soft, silver glow of moonlight, spilling across the countertops and glinting gently off the polished utensils. Outside, the night is calm, punctuated by the distant chirping of crickets and the occasional rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze. The quiet of the house makes every small sound inside, the soft scrape of a chair, the clink of a cup, feel amplified, drawing attention to the delicate dance of proximity and unspoken emotion between the narrator and his friend's mom. They find themselves standing across from each other, a pot of tea forgotten on the counter, their conversation reduced to comfortable silences filled with weight and meaning. There is no need for words. The connection between them has grown to a point where glances, gestures, and subtle shifts in posture communicate more than any sentence could. He notices the way her eyes catch the moonlight, reflecting both amusement and something tender, almost vulnerable, as if she too is weighing the delicate boundary between propriety and desire. Every small movement feels significant. When she reaches out to adjust a stray strand of hair from her face, her fingers brush his hand lightly as she passes by. He feels the warmth of her skin, the softness of the gesture, and a shiver runs down his spine, not from anything overt, but from the quiet intensity of shared awareness. For a moment, time seems suspended, the outside world fading until it's just the two of them in this private, moonlit space. The narrator becomes aware of the magnetic pull between them, subtle but undeniable. He notices the gentle rhythm of her breathing, the faint scent of her perfume mingling with the aroma of tea, the slight tilt of her head as she looks at him. She holds his gaze for a beat longer than necessary, and in that moment, the quiet acknowledgement of attraction passes between them. There's a fragility in it, a careful hesitation, yet it carries the weight of deep emotional recognition. He feels the tension of their slow-burn connection reach its peak. The desire is tempered by respect, the longing softened by restraint, and the shared understanding that some boundaries cannot be crossed in haste. Yet within that restrained space, there is intimacy that feels as profound as any confession. She moves closer, lightly resting her fingers against his cheek. It is a fleeting contact, delicate and electric, and he leans slightly toward her, not impulsively, but in quiet acceptance of the moment. Neither speaks, yet their emotions are laid bare. The mutual recognition is not about surrendering to impulsive desire, but about acknowledging the depth of feeling that has quietly grown between them. It is an emotional apex, a moment where vulnerability, attraction, and human warmth converge. As they step back, a shared breath fills the pause between them, heavy with unspoken understanding. The moonlight catches their expressions, soft and contemplative, and both are aware that their connection has shifted, stronger, more intimate, and infinitely more tender. The scene closes with a sense of suspended possibility, a YouTube-safe moment of emotional fulfillment that promises resolution in the final chapter. Morning light spills softly through the sheer curtains, filling the room with a gentle glow that feels both intimate and serene. The faint scent of fresh coffee drifts through the kitchen, mingling with the subtle warmth of baked bread cooling on the counter. The narrator enters, carrying a quiet sense of anticipation, aware that the moments they share this morning will carry a lingering significance far beyond their ordinary surroundings. She is there already, moving with her familiar grace, arranging mugs on the counter. The soft rustle of her clothes, the gentle tilt of her head as she listens to him speak, and the warmth radiating from her presence all feel amplified in the quiet morning light. There is no tension now. The emotional storms of the previous days have settled into a calm, steady rhythm. The subtle glances and fleeting touches of past afternoons have matured into a comfortable intimacy that neither needs to define nor explain. They sit together at the small kitchen table, the steam rising from their mugs creating an ephemeral veil between them. Conversation flows naturally, punctuated by quiet laughter and thoughtful pauses. He notices her gestures more keenly now, the way she stirs her coffee with careful attention, the tilt of her lips as she smiles, the warmth of her eyes when they meet his. It is a connection built not on fleeting attraction, but on trust, understanding, and the tender acknowledgement of mutual respect. A brief silence stretches between them, but it is filled with meaning rather than emptiness. He reaches lightly across the table, brushing his fingers against hers as he passes her a napkin. The contact is soft, deliberate, and entirely natural. She allows her hand to rest against his for a moment longer than necessary, a silent affirmation of the bond that has grown between them. There is no rush, no need to speak aloud the emotions that hover in the space between them. The warmth of her hand, the gentle pressure of her presence, conveys all the intimacy and trust they have cultivated. The morning unfolds in this quiet, measured rhythm. He helps her carry breakfast to the table, their hands brushing occasionally, smiles exchanged over small gestures, the subtle closeness of bodies moving in shared space. Each movement, each glance, reinforces the emotional intimacy they have nurtured. Affection expressed through gentle touches, lingering eye contact, and shared warmth rather than words or declarations. By the time the sun rises fully, spilling golden light across the room, there is a sense of resolution and fulfillment. Their relationship has reached a harmonious balance. Attraction acknowledged yet tempered by respect, emotional closeness solidified, and mutual care fully recognized. The subtle gestures of affection, a hand on her shoulder as he passes, a brief hug, soft smiles shared across the table, complete the emotional arc, leaving both characters in a state of warmth and contentment.